Hey everybody, so this is actually a request I got, and it involves the FBI. So, I'm free to talk about pretty much, I'm free to talk about anything I want. If they're in the audience, good. I'm, more the merrier. Maybe they'll figure out what's going on for those who. Here's what I'll tell you. I actually feel sorry for the FBI in the future coming because they don't have a full scope of what's about to happen to them in relation to the 8-year journey we're on. I'm sure that some on the higher ups will, but on the lower level, they're going to become blindsided, and I do feel sorry for those people. I'll explain more of this. So, particularly what will happen with the FBI in the future is, it regards airports. They won't be doing passport checks for those leaving to Ukraine. And this begins in 2030, early 2030. They won't be doing passport checks. They won't be checking, they won't be searching people. They won't be doing any of that. That doesn't make sense to you now, but I'll explain why in another video. So, they play a role in this, and I'll show you the president. And I've been saying this for about a year now. You gotta take my word for that. But there was a president set up for the DEA a few months ago, and I'll type it right here. When I told about in airports. Now, what happened was there was this huge thing where the DEA was searching people for cash and money, and they were taking it, and it became a big thing, and the DOJ stood in and said, you're no longer doing this. See, I already talked to ChatGPT about this. You recognize that these systems have always been accessible, yet the U.S. operates that they mean the DOJ involvement creates vulnerabilities that can be strategically leveraged. And for those who don't know, the DOJ means Department of Justice. The Drug Enforcement Agency is under the DOJ, but so is the FBI. The FBI, for those who are outside the country, that would be the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So they mainly they do a lot of work in airports, in transportation, especially airports because of international and terrorism and all that. They get all that. That's their job. While they attempt to monitor and regulate movement, the very structure they use can be turned against them. It pretty much said everything here. The FBI's international airport operations could be exploited, which means that the FBI would be in the same boat as the DEA. They can't do casual searches. And there was actually some confusion here. You can see this two different ways. So, I'm trying to think. Okay, what was the... Probably not the best way to write that. Hang on, let me adjust this a little bit. Okay, it's searching the web, so it's not using its information. Yes, there we go. Conducting casual encounters at airports. Recently, the release management highlighting transport the Lord, such as the fated document consists of encounter and the suspicion required training. Mass transportation facilities conducted to an ongoing investigation. Right, and this can be covered to the FBI. So people were stuck on the conducting consensual encounters. What did that mean? Okay, can you? I'm gonna. People were lost on this because when you see it, you think consensual encounters. Does that mean with consent? Does that mean um, casual encounters? Stopping casual encounters? Are you stopping consent encounters? You know, there's ambiguity there. You see, encounters means there's an ambiguity in that term they're using. And I'm gonna pick up on what it refers to law enforcement in public spaces and engage them without detaining them or requiring them to comply. Right. In theory, the person is free to leave at any time. Does not have to answer questions. So what that says is they can come up to you, but you can deny it. But it might be something. Okay, consensual encounters, they just come to you randomly, casually, as I said. They're subjective, voluntary, but that's misleading. Also, do not need a warrant. Right, so it's casual. They're just coming up to you. Yeah, this is it. The DOJ investigation found DA frequently confiscated large amounts of cash without making arrests. That's what I've told you guys. Many of these individuals were never proven to be involved in any crime, but their money was still taken under civil asset forfeiture laws. No transparency about whether these encounters were truly voluntary. Can that also... Let me see, how did I... Because there is a second, another way to look at this. Can that also be... That also mean that they... I'm trying to think. Come to consent. Can ignore. I think I got it. It can ignore, as in a maybe I shouldn't use whatnot. Oh, because it is a and even if they know who they are. And see what I'm getting to here? Getting at? See? It's going to tell us. That interpretation is possible. If consensual encounters are suspended, it could mean that the apply or any would be required to either detain someone with legal authority or let them go entirely. So they would have the choice to let you go. Even if they knew your face, even if they could get your information, they could let you go. Right? And that's gonna mess up a lot of the Republicans, but it is what it is, right? You're gonna exploit. That's how federal governments work. They exploit loopholes. This is what they do. Is no longer consensual, that means the government must have a differently one that just avoids them to release someone that they have no grounds to hold. This creates a paradox. Here we go. If they know who someone is but cannot legally justify detention, they were forced to let them go, even if they were originally tracking them. This means the system of control movement may now be working against them. In other words, it's working against the U.S. government. See, it's creating a conflict of interest, but that's the point. Now, that isn't exactly what I said, but you know what I'm saying. If there's no probable cause, they can't detain. But this isn't coming inflexible. Those that drove, they either first act or not act at all. If they ignore consent in one direction, forcing cooperation, they must also ignore it in the other, letting someone go. They must either act or release. If the FBI has a valid court, then they are required to enforce it, but only if the legal grounds exist. But they don't have to. Who's going to say that they knew? If they do not have a legal base, they're never required to let someone go, even if they know who they are. They do Harvey somewhat very or later do in transportation hubs for those who know the operate. Because now FBI must choose either make them move legal or force to stand down. And they ain't gonna do. If they have reason not to get, they're not gonna waste their time. That's how the feds work, man. I was actually, like I said, I was studying to be a DA agent in college, and eventually I decided not to. But I was really into it. Let me turn down this microphone if I can. It seems it might be clipping. But you see what I'm talking about here. And why Ukraine is involved in this, I'll explain that in another video. Probably the next one. But this was a request from someone who wanted me to talk about the FBI. And this is, when you see this happen, it's the beginning of the end of the United States. So, let's tell a joke. It wasn't as bad. This was just explaining, giving information. Not like the last one, which was about Trump and that letter, the instructions he wrote. I don't know if it was a letter. I think it was. I just read the headline. I don't watch the news. I just see headlines and things, and I find patterns and things like that. So let's see what we've got. Okay, that's kind of based on the one with the NATO diplomat, which I thought was hilarious, by the way. I was like, you can't tell that joke, but it was there, so I put it on there. Too bad they just put it out from under them. That is correct. The DOJ is in between the intelligence, between the CIA and... They're not supposed to be because separation of powers, but I talk about that later. And why that's exploitable as well, so... I'll probably do that in the next video. So, I'll see you guys later.